So if your spinning reel feels a little weird to you, or it's grinding, or it feels a little tight, or you're just not getting the casting distance that you used to get, it's likely because you've gone too long between lubricating it. And so I'm going to walk you through the 12 critical places you're going to want to oil and where you're going to want to grease. Now the question I get from time to time is how often should you do this? And for me to give you a time frame wouldn't be incredibly helpful, because your 3 months might mean you're on the water 7 times. My 3 months might mean I'm on the water 60 times. And so how I do it is I usually do the oil by feel. And so if I'm feeling something weird, it's really easy to break this out and lubricate all the points. However, if I'm going to break this apart and start greasing it, then I probably only do that about once a year during the off season up here in Northeast Ohio. That is, of course, unless I drop my reel in the water, say I'm wade fishing and I retrieve it, then I'm just going to do all of this over again. The first thing you're going to do is go ahead and take off the drag cap. I highly recommend, whenever you start taking apart a fishing reel, this is why I have a paper towel out. You can use a regular towel, because when you start taking all these things out, oh, look, this is going to be really great. Whenever you take off your bail here, you might find out that you have a bunch of line already wrapped around your spindle, which I do here. And so that might be your issue. That's off to the side. Make sure your drag cap stays on top, and you might have a pleasant surprise. You might have found an issue why it is so tight. All right, now that you have this off, this is when I start. I use the Lucas reel oil for fishing, and I just start going to town, right? So number one is going to be your bail arm connections. So this is going to be right here. I'm going to do 1 or 2 drops of oil, 1 or 2 drops of oil on the other side, and then just kind of work that in. All right, number 2 is going to be the handle. So get 1 drop of oil. A lot of people forget this part. There you go. Spin that in there. Number 4, this one often gets missed. This is going to be the line roller. Now, on some line rollers, they're dynamic, so they actually move. Others are static. And so if you have a dynamic one, just kind of put both sides and kind of work that in with your finger, move it around. Number 5 area you're going to do, this is going to be your spindle. See how that's going up, down, up, down? I'm going to put, what you want to do, because it's got some buildup in there, is I'm going to clean that. Actually, hard to get to, so I'm going to use a Q-tip and kind of clean the spindle there. Make sure it's extended all the way out. There we go. Then get in there. All right, then I'm going to put a couple drops of oil on the spindle and work that in. I'll probably get a bunch of people in the comments essentially saying, hey, it's a spindle, put grease on it. That main shaft moves up and down. You typically actually put oil on that versus grease. Oil is lighter and it allows for a smoother movement, while grease is thicker and can create kind of resistance, potentially affecting the reel's performance. Also, why I put oil on the spindle is the grease, it can slow down the oscillation at high speeds, and it attracts dirt and debris, and it's not necessarily what I want right there on my spindle. All right, one of the questions I get a lot when it comes to lubricating spinning reels is, can I use WD40? And the answer is no. WD-40 acts as a degreaser and will actually break down grease and oil, so you don't want to use WD-40. Question number 2 I get a lot is, can you use Remington oil? And this kind of falls into the category of use what you got, especially if you don't have the budget to buy the specific oils for your spinning reel. But Remington oil does attract dirt and dust and has a high viscosity. It's got a really hard time applying evenly on your spinning reel, but it can be used. I don't recommend it. I recommend, of course, getting the Lucas fishing reel oil, but use what you got in a pinch. Another question I get from time to time is, can I use Vaseline? No, I would not use Vaseline. It dissipates in hot temperatures, and so it's just going to be oozing out the bottom of your fishing reel if you decide to use it. Most fishing reel manufacturers really frown upon using anything other than what is designed for it, especially if you have a high-end spinning reel. You put a couple $100s into it, you might as well just go the little extra mile and get the fishing reel specific oil and grease. All right, another one I get is this right here, silicone grease. Now, like Vaseline, silicone grease is also a bad idea. The reason is really simple. Silicone does have mineral oil properties, and although it can repel almost any corrosive elements in a given environment, it lacks friction strength, so you're not going to want to use silicone grease. All right, let's get back into greasing and oiling this bad boy. All right, at the top of the spindle here, as you can see, right there. There is a bearing sometimes, and so since there's one on here, I'm going to put a drop or two in there, spin that around. So next what we're going to do is I'm going to open up the side plate here, and so I'm going to take the cap, all right, put that over here on my towel. I'm going to take this off. Basically this will unscrew. Boom, there we go. Set that over there. We'll get to oiling some of these things in a second. But side plate should come off fairly easily. I'm just gonna take these screws out. Now keep in mind, sometimes these screws are all the same length. Sometimes they are different. So this one actually has a little tiny washer on there. If you can't see that. Now that I'm looking at my reel like this, I'm gonna put this one, the top right. Ooh. All right, I almost lost my clear washer. Can't believe I found that just now. Now, I know since I've done this one before, these screws are all the same size, but on some of my other reels, these screws are different lengths. And so make sure that you just organize them in a way that you remember how to put them back in. And so it's, for me, it's top, top, bottom, top, top, bottom. Now, what you'll notice is when you try to take this side plate off, it should come off fairly easily. So you don't want to like start wrenching on this bad boy, because if you do, you could really mess up your reel. Now, also, sometimes there's a hidden screw right here on this back plate, which there is. Now this one is a different size than the rest of the screws. And so it's the only one that's different. So I'm going to put that up here, and I'm going to take off this cap, put that over here, and gonna just pry up this side plate. Should come off nice and easy. All right, so now we're into the guts of this bad boy, and we got a few gears going on in here. We got the main drive gear right here. You have up here is your pinion gear, and down, way down in there is your crosswind gear. And then there's a slider guide pin that looks like it's hidden under this piece of metal. And of course you got a bearing right here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna grease all those gears I just mentioned. So number 7 is gonna grease your main drive gear. The grease I like to use is Penn Precision Reel Grease. I'll throw the link to this stuff in the description below. And I also like to use a paintbrush. And so get some grease on the paintbrush and just kind of paint it on that worm gear, the pinion gear up there. There we go. Paint it to the underside of your main drive gear. I don't like to coat this, like cake it on, because it just will gum it up down here. And then way deep down in there. All right, so now that I have it in there, I'm gonna move it a little bit so I can get to some places that I didn't put it on. There we go. Now it will work its way eventually, but I just like to coat it. Nothing wild and crazy. All right, take it for a spin. See what we got. Everything looks, oh yeah, I can tell just by spinning this around how much smoother that is. All right, so you're gonna get 7, 8, 9, and that slider pin. And so it's gonna be hard to see. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Paintbrush helps out a lot. If you don't have a paintbrush, go find yourself a paintbrush. What you can see right here is going to be number 11. This is going to be a little bearing here. So I'm just put a little bit of oil on that bearing, spin it in, and then I'm good in here. And so I'm just put the plate back on. All right, something else you want to do before you put the handle back on is there actually some bearings down in here. That's the beauty of this oil here. It's got a nice long applicator tip on it. Tighten it up, cap on the other side. There is a moving part up in here. That is not tightened down really good, but hey, since I'm in here, I'll make it since I'm there. Work it in. Almost done. Don't hop off yet, because there is still something I need to share with you. All right, now don't make this mistake. A lot of times when people do this, they'll go out fishing again and they'll set the hook, and since they didn't reset their drag, they're gonna just hook set into a lot of loose drag. So make sure you reset this correctly. I like to do it to the best of my ability right here at the bench. But make sure you do that before you go out in the water. Now that you have your spinning reel all set up and lubricated, I'm sure you probably have some bait casting reels as well. And so if you have one of these bad boys, I got the basic lubrication right there, advanced right there. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you.